Good morning. Today is September 11th, 2022. My name is Peter Van Ness. Let's talk about a couple mutual funds. Last time we talked about some old funds, and we talked about a little bit newer ones. So today we're going to do the same thing. This week I've got a Pioneer fund. The date of inception is 1928, which is old, but they're still kicking. Their average rate of return is 11.89% since 1928. So that is minus 1928. That's 94 years. So in 94 years, with a minimum contribution of $1,000 for 94 years, which is really out of the question. Your grandparents would have had to do this and get it started and contributed $1,000 forever, and then your parents would have had to take over, and then you'd have to take over now to put in $1,000 for the last 94 years. You could have a potential of having $363,059,582. That's a tremendous amount of money for an overall contribution of $94,000. Pretty impressive. Pretty unlikely anybody's done that. And even if they have, good for them. That's fantastic. But realistically, let's say that we just had 20 years of contribution to that fund. $20,000 a year at an average rate of return of 11.98. That's really a pretty good return also. That sends you up to $79,598 for only putting in $20,000. It's pretty impressive. You get an extra $59,000 just to contribute to this fund. Of course, there's going to be years that they go up, they go down, but overall the average is 11.98, almost 12%. So at the 20-year mark, at 11.89, I was saying that wrong, 11.89, not 98. At the 30-year mark, you go to $264,335. So an extra 10 years, which puts you at 30 grand that you put in over that time, takes you to $264,335. Where at 20 years you had $79,598. You get an extra $184,000 for the additional $10,000 you've put in. That compounding interest is amazing when you look at it. And again, that's if you contribute every single year $1,000. Probably could put in more. Maybe you can't. That's fine too. But let's say you got to the 20-year mark and said, screw it, I am not going to put any more money into this. I'm just going to let it grow as is. So if you did that and you took your starting amount at the 20-year mark, at the end of 20 years you put in $20,000, you'd have $79,598. If at that point you left it alone and just left that contribution in and left all of the money that you have put in that fund, left it alone for the next 10 years, you go to $244,804. That's only putting in $20,000 a year. And if you keep going and leave it for 40 years, for another 20 years, you've only put in 20 grand and then left it alone. So say you started at 20 years old and you put in $20,000 year over year over year for 20 years. That takes you to 40, and then you stop contributing. You'd have $752,000, almost $753,000 for a $20,000 overall contribution over that lifetime of 20 years. At 40, without putting any more money in, you'd have $752,000. if you kept contributing for the full 40 years, you'd wind up with $832,000. That's pretty impressive. $40,000 turns into $830,000, or $20,000 turns into $752,000. $752,000 for a $20,000 total investment over the lifetime of your owning this fund, owning your shares of this fund. Now, what's neat is a lot of people, when they invest, some people, not all, can throw down $20,000 right away. I hope one day to get there. It would be awesome if I could. In fact, if you can, it would be most impressive to do that. And if you could do that, your growth would be absolutely tremendous. Because then an initial $20,000 investment, which you can do, they allow you to throw $20,000 in at any moment, would turn into a very, very huge sum of money. So let's try this real quick. $20,000. Let's hit enter. We'll change this. Oh, I screwed that one up. Let's try this again. That's 20. So an initial investment of $20,000, and you've left it alone. You could start out at the, let's see, at the 20-year mark, you'd have $211,000. At the 30-year mark, you'd have $650,000. Pretty impressive for $20,000, and just throw it in, set it and forget it, like that old guy with the hairspray paint on the I forget the telemarketing shows that they have. QVC. There you go. It's pretty impressive that you can put in money and they just give you more. And I know it's more complicated than that, but overall, when you're first getting started, it's really not that much more complicated. Yes, there's things that the fund managers do. They keep track of the individual stocks that create the mutual funds. They do have turnover. They have to make sure that these funds are still growing every year. They're doing what they're supposed to. But at this rate, you give them $1,000 at the end of the year, you wind up with $1,189. So you get an extra, hang on. Well, we done screwed it up now. Anyway, yeah, you get $1,118.90 at the end of that year. That's pretty awesome. All you had to do was put money down. They give you more at the end. And of course, there's going to be years where you lose money. But if you leave it alone, over time, the averages outweigh the losses. This year, 2022, we're having a stinker of a year. A lot of people are losing money, but they're unrealized until you pull it out. If you don't pull it out, you haven't lost anything. A lot of people that I work with struggle with the downturn in the economy. It's tough to watch if you watch it every day, but in long-term investing like mutual funds, Roth IRAs, 401ks, regular IRAs, retirement funds, you got a long way to go. Let it ride. You don't want to pull out early because then it screws you on the back end. I mean, look at the difference here. If you've done this for 20 years, you'd have $20,000 of investment for $80,000 of total money at the end of it. It's an extra $60,000 for doing nothing except handing a little bit of money over. And they don't steal your money. It's there. You get to keep it. The only time that it goes sour is if you pull out early or pull out on the downturn. Don't pull out. Just let it ride. Excuse me. It's pretty neat to get to see that You put in money, you give these companies money, they give you more in return. It's awesome. I love doing this. I wish I had more money to do it with. So let's move on to the next one. So this one that I just told you about is a Pioneer Fund. The ticker symbol was PIODX. I didn't find out what they have in it as far as the individual stocks that make it up. I just looked at their returns. 1928 to now, 11.89%. So, we're with Pioneer now. Let's show how much affiliation we have with them and move right along to T Rowe Price, who I also don't have any affiliation with other than I buy some of their mutual funds. This one is a T Rowe Price Health Sciences. The ticker symbol is PRHSX. And as of August 31st, their average rate of return for their entire lifetime since inception from 1995 is 13.98%, which their initial investment outside of a Roth or 401k is $2,500. So since inception, if you had done that for 27 years, so what is that? 2,500 times 27, so that's $67,500. You could have $677,263.31. That's 10 times your money in 27 years. Let's do that. 67,500 times 10 is $675,000, and my fancy little Excel spreadsheet shows $677,000. That's $2,000 more than 10 times your money in 27 years. This is what their average rate of return is. So if you put in $2,500 every single year for the last 27 years, you'd have $677,000. 27 years, 10 times your money. Pretty doggone impressive. What's neat about this one is I'm in this one. More than once, I have bought this fund outside of a 401k. I have it in my 401k. I love this fund. I've put it in my Roth IRA a few times. I've taken it out. Now, my Roth IRA, I do move some stuff around, but overall, I stick with funds that have more than 10 years of life behind them. So an inception date of 2012 or older. So that's my 10-year mark. 10 years old or older with double-digit returns. Now, a few of my numbers here on my list, they are lower than that, but this is because of what the world is doing these days. Now, right now I have one that I do see right here that's a 6%, but it started in 2004. And we'll get to that one in a couple of weeks. And there's reasons for doing that. But overall, the long-term investing, retirement, lifetime investing, investing outside of retirement, should be more than 5 years. Should be longer than 6 months. That's not doing anything but potentially losing money. If you want to gain money for the long term, for your kids, for your grandkids, long-term investing is the way to go. You look them up. They're not hard to find. I have zero formal education. I mean, you can look. I'm an electrician. This is not something I do for a living. This is something I do for me. And because I work with a lot of electricians that want to have investments, they want to have retirement, because they don't want to work till they're 80. I don't blame them. I don't want to work till I'm 80. I don't want to have to work till I'm 80. They're asking me questions. The reason I started this little channel is because all of the guys that I work with, talk to me. They ask me, what am I doing? What are you in? Why are you picking what you're picking? This is why I'm picking what I'm picking. Because it's old. It's 27. It's not older than me. The ones that I showed you before are. Shoot, these are older than my grandparents. It's neat to see how far you can get if you learn how to do some compound interest. And an Excel spreadsheet is an extremely easy way to go about that. It's way easier on Excel than trying to do it longhand in a notebook that would take you 4 months to do. If you can really start to see how much you can gain in compound interest over a lifetime of investing, it will really change how you treat your money at the end of the week. Instead of going to the bar, going out to the clubs, throw some money into your investments every week, every month. Then, at the end of 30 years, you're going to have some money. It's not going to be quick. It's not going to be a sexy thing to go, oh, I made $40,000 this week in my mutual funds. That very rarely happens unless you have millions of dollars. Anyway, having said all that, I do hope you start investing. I will continue to do this. I'm going to do 2 a week because it takes a while to get through them. And yes, I did go a lot longer on the Pioneer Fund than I did the T Rowe Price. It's the same information. I'm going to give you the same information every time I make a video. I'm going to give you the fund. I'm going to give you how old they are, what their average rate of return is, and I'm going to run a little spreadsheet and give you the numbers. All I'm doing when I do this is what the average rate of return since inception is, and running a simple compound interest spreadsheet on that. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I'm trying to simplify this to no end. The easier you can make investing, the more you'll want to do it. It is not needing to be as complicated as they make it sound on TV or in the paper or on the internet. It's not. I keep it simple for me. I hope to keep it simple for you so you'll start investing. And I'm not saying you should pick what I pick. Go do your own research. Look it up. It's not hard. The internet's here. It's on your phone. You always have it with you. We can figure this out. I'll help you figure it out. Again, you have questions, write them down, put them in the comments. I'll answer everyone that I come across. Thank y'all for joining me. I hope y'all have a great week. Goodbye.